resonate with fans. So without further ado, a guy who does a spectacular job, and we appreciate him every single time that he comes on the program. By the way, you know one thing Big Sills does. We're getting some of the biggest names in Philadelphia sports talk history on, and they come on because they want to. Hell, we even had a conversation with Derek Gunn today. I mean, everybody wants to come on the program. Ray Didinger, Angelo comes on all the time for us. Howard Eskin now coming on with us. Marcus Hayes was so awesome the other day to us. We so appreciate it. And I only put big stars on with us. The guy who's a real star with the Eagle fans is our friend Philly.500. He joins us now. Brother, I appreciate you coming aboard, man.
Thank you, man.
Hey, man, I don't put it. What do you think on Mark Holmes, man? I put anybody on? I don't put anybody on here, man.
I appreciate it, man. Those are nice words. I don't know what to do with myself now with all that. Thank you.
Well, I'll tell you what, man. I would like you to do this for me then. You tell me your takeaway on Brandon Graham and what you saw yesterday and some of the feelings you had about his career and what he meant to the Eagle fan base.
Yeah, I think Brandon Graham had one of the most remarkable careers that I've ever seen because I think he got better as he got older. You know, usually guys start to get worse as they get older. He really got better as he got older. And yeah, I mean, he might not have put up the big numbers. I think he only had double-digit sacks, I think, 1 year. But he was so impactful with you know, his spirit for the team and what he meant that way, what he did in the run game. He's just a great player. And I'll tell you what, when they drafted him, I was like, come on, Earl Thomas is sitting right there. What are we doing? You know, but it proved me wrong and a lot of other people. I think Brandon Graham should work within the organization because I think that if anybody can work with these young guys, especially, you know, if a guy's not off to a good career, it's him. He handled everything with such class all the time, and he just kept working. I mean, you saw it. You kind of saw it. I thought it was 2016. So the year before they went to the Super Bowl, Doug Peterson's first year as head coach. That's when I thought Brandon Graham really started to come into his own. And, you know, he hell of a player, man. One of the Eagle greats. That's for sure.
Who do you think had more of an impact in the loss of that player not being in the locker room? Kelce, Brandon Graham coming up this year, or Fletcher Cox?
Between Kelce and Cox, or all three?
All three.
Brandon Graham. I think Brandon Graham.
Why?
I think he's harder to replace because I think what Brandon Graham brings to brings to that locker room, brings to that team emotionally. We saw the year he tore, what was it? He had Achilles or something, and he was out. Defense was not the same without him on there. And Fletcher Cox may have been the better player, and even Kelce. But I mean, look, Kelce left, and what happened? Cam Jurgens came in. You won a Super Bowl. It wasn't all that bad. I think Brandon Graham, for everything he gives you as a complete player, I think it's going to be a tough loss.
All right, I got to be Big Sills here for you a little bit here. Now, I want you to correct me here. So this guy had a 42-minute interview thanking everybody from Big Dom to person that parked the cars. No mention of Nick Sirianni. Not one time in that presser did he mention Nick Sirianni. I mean, he's sitting right in front of him, Philly. He's there right in front of him, and he mentions Doug. He mentions Andy. He mentions everybody, and there he is. Nick Sirianni is sitting right in front of him, and he don't mention that guy.
Nothing. You mean Super Bowl winner, Nick Sirianni?
Okay. Super Bowl champion. You're right. He just won a Super Bowl a month and a half ago with the guy. He's there 40 minutes. He don't mention him.
I don't know, man. I don't know where you come up with this stuff. Like, that's the last thing maybe he didn't. But be a big boy, Nick. Be a big boy. Eat a cannoli and don't worry about it. I'm sure it wasn't on purpose. You know what I mean? I don't know. It's not a big deal. I don't think
he doesn't say shit to him.
You don't know what he said. You don't know what he said, to him one-on-one. Maybe that was more important conversation. How the hell should I know?
Oh, man. I just was like, wow, man, what a bail on you on that. Holy shit. He mentioned He mentioned everybody except Nick Sirianni. All right.
Well, it's like people were coming to me yesterday saying, dude, Kelce, what a rotten person. How could he not be at the Brandon Graham retirement? How the hell do I know what Kelce's doing? You know what I mean? I have no idea. How am I supposed to know? I don't know.
It's
I don't
funny
know, but
you
I don't.
should bring that up. Here we
Here we
go.
go.
Okay. It's funny you should bring that up. Now this is just big cells here. So I'm listening to Brandon Graham, and I don't know, dude. I listened to him, and I was like, I believe everything. He's heartfelt, talked about his love of his teammates. How come now when I see Jason Kelce, I think he's full of shit? I don't see it anymore. I don't. He was on his podcast crying about his love for his brother and his undying love for Taylor Swifties and shit. And I'm like, I mean, I'm almost over it now where it's really wimpy. And I'm like, I don't know. When I watch Brandon Graham, I feel a lot better about the Eagles and Philly fans. When I watch Jason Kelce, and I get it, could be logistics. He wasn't there. Okay, I'm not into that. I don't care about that. I care more about.
I don't think about any of that stuff.
He just, this fucking guy cries about everything now. I'm sorry, my brother lost the Super Bowl.
Well, look, I will say that I think that we are all like oversaturated with Kelce. Kelce this, Kelce. I got Mark Holmes sending me Jason Kelce soups. It's like it's too much. And I think that post congratulating the Eagles and pulling it right after Super Bowl, I don't think that wasn't a good look. That didn't come off good. And people took that to heart. But I got to tell you, like these are things like my wife works. These are picky loose things. This is the stuff my wife worries about. I don't worry about why Kelce wasn't there. Oh, he didn't say nice things about me. Who gives a shit? So,
that's why I love this guy. All right, hey, let me make a point to you about Jordan Davis, and I've warmed up, and I want them to extend him, and I'll tell you why.
Man.
I made this comment in the offseason last year. The less he plays, that means the Eagles do better. And I made it this point. Don't you agree? Without a nose guard, you can't play a 34. I played the nose.
Right.
You cannot play a 34, which is Vic's defense. And on top of that, how many times were opponents, including the Chiefs, in 3rd and long, they won 1st and 2nd down because Davis was stopping the run, which procured that defense to be in nickel, and it actually made Cooper DeJean a more valuable asset. It made Q a more valuable asset.
Now you're coming to my side finally.
Look, is he Vita Vea or is he Dexter Lawrence? No. However, he did play on the #1 defense in the National Football League that took apart opponents each and every single week and got better by the end of the year. I'm 18 million.
If you had to say, I need 2 sacks from you, Jordan Davis, what games do you want him to produce those sacks? The Super Bowl and the NFC Championship game, the biggest games of his career. He showed up. He showed up and he did it. I thought Jordan Davis played better. I think Jordan Davis is good. I think Jordan Davis has a lot he could get better at, and I think that he's still growing as a player. I think he can get better. I think we got to be patient with him. The one thing Brandon Graham we saw with his career was you got to have a little patience sometimes.
I threw this at you. I'm all right with the $11.2 million extension.
All right.
So that means if you give him $18 million annually, you're going to have the guy next to him making 40. So you think you're really going to pay $20 million and $40 million for 2 D tackles when you don't pay anybody shit in Dallas in Philly? You really think that?
I think you got a choice. Well, what's their choice? You know what I mean? Milt Williams made $26 million. You're going to bring him back as a third string guy to come in at $26 million. Listen, this defensive line market is going crazy right now. It's going crazy. And I think this is going to play a big part in the draft, to be quite honest with you. I heard you and Xander talk about what you guys think they're going to do. I have a slightly different perspective because primarily what's going on at the line with paying these guys.
Tell me what it is. I mean, I said
Well,
that they
I
should
think
take a DT down there at 32 because it hedges your bets.
here's what I think. I think, and I know you guys are saying it like this, but I think they might go in safety. I think they're trading up for a safety. Here's my thought. Well, look, you don't know until you see how the draft is falling, right?
Correct.
It's got to fall a certain way. But to me, the first 3 picks I feel pretty comfortable about. Any order: tight end, defensive end, or safety. I think those are the 3 positions that you're going to take. Now, if you look at this draft, and let's say the way I think it's going to fall is I think the edge rushers are coming off the board early. You may have quarterbacks rise up and stuff, but I think people are taking edge. You know why? Nobody wants to pay these guys $40 million plus those. Micah Parsons is about to set that market again. You got rumors about Trevon Walker. Why? Because they don't want to pay him that much money. These teams are going to try to get edge rushers early because it's deep at that position. I think you're going to have 5 edge rushers off the board by the time the Eagles get even close to picking. But you may have the best safety on the board sitting right there that you could start right away. And then that frees up you to do what you want to do with Reed Blankenship because you got a safety on a rookie deal. You got your 2 corners on the second year of their contract. It makes sense if it falls where the edge rushers are coming off the board early, which I think is what's going to happen because nobody wants to pay these guys the money. And Howie, they said he didn't take running backs. They said that he didn't take cornerbacks in the first round. They said that he wouldn't re-sign linebackers. They have changed how they do things. And I think the way it's setting up, it could fall, maybe not just even a safety, but just a defensive back. It could fall where you could take the 6th best edge rusher or the best safety. And I think they move up. And I think that if the draft falls that way, I think they're taking safety or a defensive back.
How about this? Because to your point, okay, now that you've lost Slay, I mean, whatever you want to say about Slay, was your best corner last year because he played cornerback 1. I mean, Q had a great rookie year. I'm not dismissing it, but Slay had he had 900 reps last year, man. I mean, he played a shitload of football. And to your point also about, Gardner Johnson played 1,100 snaps last year, counting the playoffs. I mean, crazy. So could you see them? Now, they're going to move, according to John McMullen, they're going to move Q over to CB1. Keely Ringo's not the guy. He had 148 snaps last year at corner. And when they went to corner, think about it. Vic didn't even go to him. Vic went to Isaiah Rodgers. Okay? They didn't go to Keely Ringo. If Keely Ringo was so good, why did they go to Isaiah Rodgers the majority of it? He had 450 snaps himself. So could you see them down there in the second round, maybe taking another corner? That would be 3 corners in the first and some really high picks in the last 2 drafts.
I mean, I don't put anything past Howie. I think you have to take the best player available. But I'm gonna tell you right now, because people will say to me, "Well, the safety's not going to be at 32. Eagles aren't going to be at 32. Ain't no way the Eagles are staying 30. They're going up. I think they're going up to about 23, 24, 25. That's where I think they'll end up. But you got 2 really good corners. You've got a safety that apparently you like and want to give them an extension. And then you have a giant hole at that position. Do I really want to go and get a 31-year-old guy at the end of his career to come in and we're back to just plugging it in? Or just go draft a safety if he falls and plug him in and play him. That's where you've had success. Now your secondary is young and, whatever. And if they want to do it with corner, fine. I think Adoree Jackson is the insurance policy for Ringo because I don't think necessarily he's great, but I think he's competent enough to play the position if need be.
So you're saying you think they go somewhere around 23?
I do. I think
the tight end from Michigan is in that conversation.
Yeah.
The Colston Loveland kid is in that.
Yeah.
That Nick Scourton from A&M is in that position. It's funny you should say that. The East Carolina corner is in there. That Siobhan Ravel is in there, who people really like. Could be in that position. Javon Walker is in that 23 to 25 role in there. So
I
if
think
they move up, do you think
I
they're
think
going
he's gone. I think he's going early. I think Pierce. I think they go way earlier than what we've seen. Tight end possible, but I think the edge rusher is going. I think it's
How
going to be a
about that
run.
Derek Harmon kid? If he was at 23, would you draft him, the kid from Oregon?
Possibly. I mean, I'm open to it, but I mean, I think if you look at what they did at the combine, also, they spent a lot of time talking to safeties. They specifically were out talking to safeties. So I think, to me, the way I think it's going to fall, and this is my guess, I think they're going to see how this thing falls. If my prediction is true that there's going to be a heavy run on edge rushers, I think they're open to doing it.
Boy,
Going up
you
against
made a
safety.
great point about how he had the combines. I should have picked that up because he was telegraphing that he, with all the safeties they talked about, moving off of Gardner Johnson. That was prior to moving off of Gardner Johnson when they were at the combines. So he was telegraphing that they were going to do something there at the combines because of all the interviews. They had more interviews with safeties at pro days and at the combines than they did any other position so far this offseason.
Yeah. Well, I mean, what would it mean to your secondary if, let's say, I don't know, let's say Malachi Starks, just as an example. Say you draft him and he can play and start right away and give you the impact that Cooper DeJean and Q gave you first year. I mean, that's a pretty damn good secondary for years to come, is it not? Now you got a guy on a rookie deal.
If they do that, if they draft that, they're going to move Cooper out to the numbers.
I know people say they don't want to. I personally don't want to, but you do wonder if he would like it because eventually, you're going to get paid more at that position than in the slot. So, I mean, we'll have to see. But I think that it's not just, I think the way the draft falls is important. If safeties are coming off early and other positions and the edge rushers are dropping, then take an edge rusher. I have no problem with that. But I think it's I think safety is more in play than people think, is what I'm saying.
I agree with you. There's no question about it. I think it's going to be interesting to see where they end up going here with this. Now, listen, I got two more here for you. I'll let you go here, but here's what I think. And I brought this up to people. All these guys that they brought in were all guys that had been highly evaluated. Most of them are first, second, and third round picks that the Eagles have signed. And all these guys have been bombs everywhere that they've been. Now, again, that's not an indictment so much to say on the player, but mostly on, especially after the New York Giants. I mean, what am I supposed to believe in what the Giants do after they just let go of Saquon Barkley? How the fuck do I look at Joe Schoen and go, that guy knows what he's doing in evaluating talent? So there's no possible way that I'm not going to give the kid that they just signed here, this kid Jackson, a potential look at. But here's what I think, and I'm going to give you an example. When Jimmy Johnson was building the Cowboys, he had a philosophy of this. He drafted guys that he liked. Then he brought in a shitload of free agents. If his draft choices couldn't beat out veteran-type guys who had been evaluated high draft picks, he knew that the guys that he had drafted, you can't beat that guy out. He created competition. Like they don't want to hand Keely Ringo the corner job unless they know they can beat somebody out that they're bringing in. I mean, what's the point, right? Or say you have a linebacker, Trotter. You bring a kid in. Can he beat that guy out to be – because you got to replace Oren Burks. 500. Here's the problem that they have too. They lose Fred Johnson today to the Jags. Well, dude, you lost your depth at corner, at linebacker, and your swing tackle. Who's replacing those guys too? That was your war of attrition guys that you had. Like Fred Johnson stoned Trey Hendrickson in that Cincinnati game. Isaiah Rodgers had 450 snaps. He was essential when a guy went down like Slay. You plugged him in and put him out there. Oren Burks was a hero in the playoffs. You didn't notice any drop-off at all when he was in there. So you got a lot of work to do. And I think, and I'm not saying they don't believe in their rookies, but how you elevate your rookies is creating competition. And I think that's why you're seeing so many players sign.
Yeah, I think you got to create competition. I think that's why you brought Adoree Jackson. You're not going to go out and get Jair Alexander and then say, "Hey, Ringo, go beat him out," because you're paying him so much money. So you get a guy like Adoree Jackson who's competent at that position. He may not be the greatest corner, but he's competent. And I think if they really wanted Isaiah Rodgers for what was it, $8 million guaranteed over 2 years, and then Oren Burks $5 million, they could have signed those guys. They could have afforded that. To me, they want these young guys to play and win the job, but they will provide competition. But when it comes to the offensive line, I don't worry about Stoughton. Whatever, dude, whoever you need, they'll get, and I know he'll get those guys ready to go. So I'm sure we'll be able to replace it. And I expect another defensive tackle in the mid rounds. I expect offensive linemen. So I mean, we'll get that in the draft, I think.
Okay, finally here. We got to do our annual until Mark, we can get him back on. We got to do our annual bash the Cowboys moment here. If you're the Cowboys, are you really giving Micah Parsons a $42 million contract extension for a guy who doesn't show up? And I mean, when he plays the Eagles, I don't know he's out there. I mean, he's not. He doesn't play the run. They were awful against the run last year. I'm going to pay a guy on the edge $42 million. Hey, one thing about Myles Garrett. Myles Garrett's played on a number one ranked defense in Cleveland 2 years ago. I mean, he elevated their defense. This guy has not elevated the Cowboy defense. But you know they're going to pay him 42, or would you trade him?
Oh, I don't know. If I was the Cowboys, I'd have blown that team up a year or two ago. No, I think they're going to pay him, and I think Look, Mark's already doing videos like his titles are like it's already done, and then I'm like, wait, they didn't sign the guy yet, so they haven't even signed him yet. Yeah, I mean, I think they probably feel that they have to sign him. You're going to have to pay him a lot of money, but he's a passer. He can rush the passer, but you can run all over him. I mean, is he really a complete guy? Mark likes to say he's Lawrence Taylor. I don't think so. Not at all. So look, I think Dallas, to me, I don't know what Mark and these Cowboy fans are smoking, because they act like they closed the gap and they got a chance. You think I'm really worried about Miles Sanders and that running game that they've got? You think I'm worried about any of their receivers that they've got? I mean, Dallas is basically, they went shopping really cheap. Now, here's a team that hasn't done anything. At least the Eagles, look, we're preparing for mega contracts for guys. They're going and getting guys in the first round who were not that good, and they're hoping that the change of scenery is going to elevate them.
The guy they drafted, that guy kid stinks. Hey, Xander, if you can hear me, I want you to post this last graph here that you showed about the Cowboys in the last 30 years. I want to show you this, Philly. Look at this shit. This is the last 30 years for NFC championship droughts. Look at the Cowboys. They're doubled up the Bears, who are second. It's been 30 years since they've made an NFC championship game appearance. Look at the teams that are more successful than them. The Cardinals.
The Panthers. The Lions, Washington. Yeah, that's bad. Chicago even. Chicago. Yeah, it's bad. That team stinks, man. And I have to do a video on Mark, because he keeps talking about how the Dallas Cowboys draft better than the Eagles. What planet he's on? Over the last 4 years, if you look at our draft compared to theirs, it's not even close. Not even close.
God forbid.
It's great. It's great.
Get this. You ended up being right about the corners. Completely overrated, overpaid. Every single person out there is overpaid and it over evaluated. They closed the gap. Yeah, you know who they closed the gap on? The Giants.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, Billy.
Yeah.
Great stuff, my friend.
Thank
I so
you,
appreciate it.
Yeah, man. Anytime. Thank you so much.
You got
I'll
it. That
talk
is
to you.
our friend Philly.500. Make sure you check him out, man. Great stuff as always. I don't know what planet that dude's living on, Mark Holmes. I have no idea what planet he's living on here. If the Eagles go early, the best safety could be available in the 20s. Emmanuel from South Carolina. God, South Carolina's got 3 really good football players. South Carolina was a good unit last year. 6'3", light version of Kyle Hamilton, who's in Baltimore. And have picked if Davis was gone. Yeah, that's the guy I wanted. I wanted Kyle Hamilton. He could make the secondary elite. I'll tell you, man, South Carolina had some really good football players. They really did. Some good players. All right, hit the like button here. We appreciate you guys. Hey, by the way, don't forget our great friends at Morgan & Morgan. If you're ever injured, this is the place for you guys to go. I've known John Morgan for over 25 years with over $20 billion in recoveries for families across the country. Morgan & Morgan's track record is just absolutely second to none. By the way, I want to tell you, John Morgan sent a message out to you guys, and he said, hey, the show's killing it, and absolutely he's proud to be part of the program. And so we're proud to have Morgan & Morgan here with us here. We're so grateful that he's with us. Pennsylvania, there was a story that I've been telling you about. $650K was initially offered on a settlement by an insurance company. I was told, John said, yeah, they fought us back and forth. We went tooth and nail with these guys. We ended up getting that family in Pennsylvania, right here in PA, $26 million. There was a family in Florida we talked about. He keeps hearing the stories that we're mentioning here. And he said, yeah, initially, first they came out, it was like $200,000. Then they got up to $350, didn't want to budge. They ended up getting that family nearly $12 million plus in settlement for that respected family. Look, if you're ever injured, please check out my friends at Morgan & Morgan. The fee is free unless they win. For more information, go to forthepeople.com/big sales or pound law 529. That's FOR, thepeople.com/big sales or pound law 529. And do me a favor, you tell them Big Sales sent you.